stay in touch. Not far behind them came Wayne Farmer on another Kawasaki, the man who was that single point behind Van Niekerk in the championship before they came to the Eastern Free State. Lo Veppener, Boer hero from the last century, kept a watchful eye on proceedings as the local sports fields were turned into an off-road service park. Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. made a quick pit stop and were back on their way to complete the second section of the race, eyeing a victory in the special vehicle category. Pete Swanepoel, navigating for Cassie Coetzee and the troubled Castrol Toyota Hilux double cab, watched proceedings bemusedly as one after the other of those funny-looking special vehicles pulled in for their pit stops. The Rapsa race curve, Nardus Alberts and Johan Coetzee was in a tight battle for the lead, and they also made a quick getaway. Hilton Laurie and Warren Martin reported no problems with their race curve and took to the road after taking on fuel and some liquids for the crew. Into the pits came Bevan Berthold in his race car after a grueling first section of the Caledon 400. There was some concern in the pits as his right front wheel had taken a bad knock. While the rest of the field came streaming in one after another, there was frantic activity around the car as the pit crew hurried to get the fuel in and effect the necessary repairs, so that their man, of course, could get out again to continue with the race. But hardest hit so far was the Castrol Toyota crew.
Yeah, it's a hot, sad story again. We was driving quite comfortably in a good position, and we're losing the four-wheel drive, and they stripped it now and see that one of the CV broke. And you know, it was 65 k's from the beginning this morning, so we decided before we destroy anything. So what happened there is just, I've got the parts here, until I stripped it and we analyzed that's the problem.
No such problems for Barker and Lateghan in their Pennzoil Land Rover, who had been steadily climbing up the leaderboard after their problems in the time trials. Andrew and Chris Birkin in their Class E Toyota Hilux also needed some repairs after a quick roll in racing Section 1.
We just basically in a intersection just parked on its side. Nothing really serious.
Second in their class after 2 victories and a second position and lying 4th overall in the championship, the Birkin brothers needed to continue and finish well up in order to close the gap in both the overall championship and the class battle with Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, so no time could be wasted in the pits. After the grueling first section over 195 kilometers, Section 2 would take the competitors to the southeast on part of the route used for the time trial the previous day. Just more than 200 kilometers to the end of the race, and in the special vehicle category, the dice for the lead was on between Rob Walk in the Super Pave Raceco and Pretoria's Nardus Alberts and Johan Coetzee, with the lead changing several times. Alberts had been campaigning in off-road racing for many years, having won the Roof of Africa 7 years ago as a co-driver, so hungry for victory couldn't accurately describe how much he wanted to win. Also still in with a shot for overall and super special victory were the Czepeks in their V-Motors Epsom Racing Raceco, still lying third, but just waiting for something to go wrong with the leaders. Fourth and some 10 minutes behind Czepek Sr. and Jr. were still Laurie and Martin in their Raceco car and crew, going like clockwork. Leading the production vehicle category in their Vodacom Mitsubishi Pajero at this stage were Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, but they didn't have much of a time cushion in case anything went wrong, because Cliff Barker and Hein Lateghan in the Pennzoil Land Rover were closing in. Reigning champions Avi Reinicker and Robin Houghton had been experiencing problems and were out of the reckoning, so victory was beckoning for either of these two crews. The Birkin brothers in their Toyota Hilux were still leading their class and were third in the production vehicle category. No further problems reported. Relaxation in the Free State sun for some, but for others, the hard work was far from over. Mark Breckel on his Johannesburg Yamaha Banshee had taken command in the quad category, and he was bringing it into the refuel. The search was on. They eventually found it, and things were seemingly going well.
It's a tough race, a very rocky race. Lucas and Christopher in the lead, but they were out riding each other, and they've basically buggered up their box. I've been a bit slower, but it seems I'm in the lead now. Let's hope I can keep it there.
A good thing that hot engine is well covered, so while others could take it easy, Breckel knew he still had to finish the race.
Oh, my seat!
Class L Championship leader Christo van der Merwe brought his Team Joburg Yamaha Answer racing machine in for a final splash and dash, knowing that he had a long way to go before catching the leader. Johan Gerber and Kutsia Labuskachny were seemingly looking for the route in their Ray Sonic Chev. They were lying 10th in the special vehicle category, but Van der Merwe couldn't really be bothered about their plight as he set off to catch Breckel. Graham McLaughlin was still going well, his local knowledge of the area a distinct advantage, and he had taken full advantage of the engine failure that the pre-race favourite Alfie Cox had during time trials the previous day. The Lesotho Office Equipment Honda rider was leading the open class as well as the motorcycle category.
How's it going?
Very well. I just hope I can get my gas in before this car passes me, otherwise I have to try and get past it.
It was the Lesotho crew of Alex Sally and Ashraf Abubakar in their Lady Brand Land Rover entered Raceco, lying in 12th position in the special vehicle category. Unfortunately for McLaughlin, he could get away in front of them. Second overall in the motorcycle category and leading the 250s was Lesotho Office Equipment Honda rider Elmer Simons, who had had a steady race so far.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Excellent, thanks.
Things were starting to get hectic as Anton Badenhorst brought his Vespa in for a dash of fuel, but Simons wasn't phased and dashed away from the refueling point. This is hard work, man. Greg Aspinall and his Panasonic Russell Campbell Racing Kawasaki was also going strong, second in the 250 category and chasing hard to catch up with Simons.
Hold up, eh?
Now things would really be getting busy, and the refuelers had a tough time ahead of them. Daryl Curtis was third in the 250s on his AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, just ahead of Clayton Enslin on his Elna Fox FMF Racing Kawasaki. Alfie Cox on his Gulwar Blonde KTM was storming through the field and was lying second in the open class. Making up time in the refuel is essential for the riders to improve on their race position. And getting away in front of your rivals means that you don't have to eat their dust trying to pass them. After 140 kilometers in Racing Section 2, the final leg of some 60 kilometers would be a repeat of the time trial route of the previous day. In off-road racing, this is often the sting in the tail. At the front of the field, the battle for the overall lead was still continuing as Nardus Alberts and off-road rookie Johan Kutzer in their Rapsa Raceco were trying to break clear from the super-paid version of Rob Walk. After more than 300 kilometers, this was all that separated them. Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak were still leading the production vehicle category in their Vodacom Mitsubishi Pajero, and things were looking good for their second victory of the year. But not too far behind were Cliff Barker and Hein Latergan in the M3-engined Pennzoil Land Rover. Their first national production vehicle victory was still due, and they'd not lost hope at this stage. The Birkin brothers, Andrew and Chris, in their Toyota Hilux were still leading their class, and were lying third overall in the production vehicle category. Fourth were Gerard and Vic Kampfer in their Quadri-Sure Toyota Hilux on their way to their best result of the year. The finish in Vepner and the battle for victory was finally resolved when Alberts and Kutzer brought their Rapsa raceco in first, less than a minute ahead of Walk in his Super Pave raceco. This was one of the closest finishes in South African off-road racing history. The champagne certainly tasted sweet, and there were congratulations all round as Alberts and Kutzer celebrated their first national victory.
We started third position this morning, and we didn't have any problems whatsoever throughout the whole race. And we passed the first two guys, which were typical Rob Walk, after a while, and then Rob Walk and myself must have had the most exciting off-road race I've ever had, being changed, swapping the lead, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. It was a very exciting race. The marking was the best I've ever seen, so yeah, I had a good time.
So a happy Alberts and Kutzer, but with their 9th position finish, Harvey and Stone managed to maintain their lead in the championship over Richard Carolan, who finished 14th. The first production vehicle over the line, the Pennzoil Land Rover of Barker and Laterthon, after the Pajero ran into drivetrain problems and retired.
Well, we didn't expect to get here first. You know, after yesterday's hassles, we started, I think, in the 30s. But obviously all our opposition had trouble as well. Look, we pushed quite hard. This last lap we just cruised because there was no one to chase. Unfortunately, as I say, the other guys fell out. And here we are, our first win with a brand new vehicle.
With this victory, Barker and Laterthon maintained their 6th position in the championship, which was still being led by Reyneke and Houghton, but by a smaller margin. First bike home was local boy Graham McLaughlin on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda, taking the open category at the same time. This was his 2nd victory of the year.
I took strain to get past the cars, but the pressure was on me all day. I kept on looking back and wondering where the rest of the guys are, but I had a good clean run. I must say the support out there, all the local people, was unbelievable. You can't, really unbelievable.
2nd overall and 1st in the 250 class, another Lesotho Office Equipment man, Elmer Simons on his Honda. This was his 1st victory of the year.
I had a good time trial yesterday, which actually gave me a bit of an opportunity today. I didn't have to pass many people in the dust. So my aim today was just to keep my position, and it was actually pretty easy without having to pass anyone in that. You know, I was chasing Graham the whole day, which kept my pace up as well. You know, but fortunately he made a mistake somewhere along the line, and I got the lead.
McLaughlin closed the points gap to Alfie Cox in the open class. Simons remained in 4th in the 250 class, and Jeffrey Wallater moved to 3rd in the 200cc class. Mark Breckel on the Johannesburg Yamaha Banshee led the quads home.
I had an accident over Anthill. Got quite a fright and I slowed down, thank goodness, because the 2 front runners, Vickers and Christo, were so busy racing each other they broke their bikes and left the 3rd position, which I was in at the time, and I took the 1st position after that. Quite easy.
Breckel's victory lifted him to 3rd in the championship, while John Craig Costello maintained his unbeaten reputation in the unmodified class. Make a note, the next round of the National Off-Road Championship is the Lichtenberg 400 in Northwest on October the 9th and 10th. If you need more information about any aspect of off-road racing, contact Bux Carolyn or Jan Johnson.